Hello and welcome, everyone. Welcome to Overcoming Illness. I almost said wellness. If you don't know me, I am Paula Denoncourt. I'm a holistic health coach, founder and CEO of Enrich Your Health. I myself suffered from multiple food allergies. Oddly enough, autoimmune and Lyme disease has also fallen into my lap. So I've decided to start this show called Overcoming Illness, and I'm very thankful for Elevation TV Network for having me and allowing me to use this platform. We've had some amazing guests, and we have a really amazing guest tonight, which I'll tell you about shortly. But just to tell you a little bit about me, like I said, I've overcome multiple food allergies. I'm a lot better now. I do one-on-one coaching, group coaching, speaking engagements, and now my own TV show. And we are looking for more guests. September's wide open, and I am going to be looking for sponsors as well. I also am looking for people to partner with. I do customized recipes, and I have digital recipe books and ebooks that are helpful for people with autoimmune or food allergies. So they're like gluten-free, dairy-free, low in sugar, things like that. So if that's something you need help with, please contact me. But tonight is not all about me and my issues. We are going to talk to T.G. Barnes, my friend. We met years ago with Worship Word Art, which we both really miss, which was an amazing, amazing group and tribe of people that, we just really learned how to do prophetic art, which was absolutely amazing. And I do want to recognize Miss Prophetess Rashida, who, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't even be on this platform. She invited me a while back in her show, and that's how I found it. So she is on, so she says hello. And I just want to say good evening, good afternoon, good morning, because I don't know who's on here. You could be on Roku, you could be on YouTube, you could be on Facebook. I don't know who's watching. So I just want to welcome everybody. So T.G. Barnes is founder of Do Life Well Apothecary, which in other words is similar to my line of work. She's a wellpreneur, and she teaches people holistic wellness. We'll put it that way, and I'll let her go a little deeper into that. So let me tell you a little bit about TG, and I want to thank her for being here tonight. TG wears many mantles, but her most important work is a wife to her husband and homeschool mom of 2 boys. She holds degrees in liberal arts, communication studies, and marriage and family therapy, and a plethora of coursework in nutrition and health and wellness. She considers herself a wellpreneur, as I said earlier, as most aspects of her work is centered around physical, mental, and spiritual wellness. Her own wellness journey, including her work in ministry as founder and co-leader of Soul Diagnostic, LLC, a prophetic teaching, spiritual growth, and development ministry. Her Do Life Well slogan became a brand that includes consultant work, coaching, an herbal product apothecary, and a bulk foods preparedness club, which just sounds amazing in itself. She is a mentor and counselor to families of children with special healthcare needs, where she provides resources and biblically based spiritual family development. She will soon add author to her portfolio with her upcoming book, The Family Altar in Times of Crisis, Transition, and Blessing, stated for release in November. So that's exciting. So welcome, TJ, and thank you so much for being on. So let's just start by you telling a little bit about yourself, your background, where you grew up. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go into some of the questions.
Okay, well, as you said, I am a wife, a mother of 2 boys, and we do homeschool.
Mm-hmm.
I've been homeschooling them all of their life. So this has become a lifestyle for us. And I served in youth and family development for many years and transitioned from that into self-employment with my wellness company, where I did a lot of coaching and consulting, not only with individuals, but also with companies who were trying to build a wellness culture within their company. So that is my passion. wellness from a physical, natural, spiritual perspective.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I do. You know, wellness is life, wellness is my business. So it
Mm-hmm.
kind of encompasses just about every aspect of my life.
And where did you grow up?
So, where did I grow up? That's a good question. I am a military brat, as they call it, an army brat.
Yeah.
I'm originally from New Orleans, Louisiana,
Okay.
and I lived there for most of my formidable years growing up, being raised by my grandparents until I was adopted. And then I was traveling with my mom and dad while my father was in the military. He retired, retired major in the military. So home was wherever the army sent us.
Wow.
So yeah, so from foreign countries to stateside,
Wow.
a lot of
That,
traveling. It's about every 3 years or so.
that's
But I
fascinating.
call Virginia home now.
So Virginia is home now. Okay. That's fascinating. You must have learned a lot traveling the world like that.
Definitely. I think it enriched a lot of my childhood, meeting
Mm,
a lot of different people and different cultures and
yeah.
seeing the world, seeing different places and living in places like Germany and,
Wow.
experiencing that. So definitely.
Yeah, I can imagine. It must have been hard to adapt to another country as a kid, like from going from the US to, where did you say, Germany?
Germany, uh-huh. It
Yeah.
was exciting and scary at the same time because that was actually my first time actually being on a plane.
Wow.
So flying to another country was my first time being on a plane as a kid.
Mm. How
Elementary
old were
school. I was in elementary school.
you?
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, it was different. It was definitely different. And once we came back to the United States, you could see kind of how far behind we were in some aspects because there, when it came to like television shows and things like that, we were always getting the things that people in the United States saw months ahead of time, whether it was movies, television shows, things like that.
Hmm.
We would get later. So where friends in the United States probably already knew about it, we were just learning about it.
Wow. So
Yeah.
the US was ahead of Germany.
Hmm.
Wow. And so was it, um, how was the language barrier for you?
Well, we were. I was going to military school, so we were required to learn the language.
Oh,
So that was one of the classes that we took every day. We were required to take German every day.
wow.
Yeah, yeah. So
Wow. So that must have been a little bit traumatic, I would say. Wasn't it for you, or did you adapt right
I think I adapted pretty well because you still have that excitement as a kid. This is
away?
all new and you're in a different world from a
Yeah.
kid's perspective. Um, the food is different.
Oh,
The
yeah, that's true.
how
Yeah.
it looks is different. How they drive very fast in Germany.
Hmm.
So the interstate is like you can drive 120 miles per hour on the interstate there.
Wow. I never knew that.
So it's just it was just different. And
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't trade it. I enjoyed my time there in Germany and growing up there for the time that I did. And some of the people that I met there, I'm still friends with today.
Awesome.
Yeah,
How many years were you there?
we were there 3 years.
Great. That's a good amount of time.
Mhm.
Yeah. Wow. That's always amazing to me to have to, like, as a kid, to adapt to. I mean, it's hard enough to adapt. Like, some kids move, from state to state.
Right.
Hard enough to adapt from one school to another, never mind from one country to another. I can't even.
Well, the one thing about it, how we looked at it, is that every 3 years you could kind of reinvent yourself.
Right. Nobody knows me here. I can.
Right. Nobody knows who you are, so you can
Right.
start all over again.
That's true. So that's helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because you do get, like, I was known as the shy kid. That was like my label, the shy kid.
that was me.
You get labeled, yeah. And then how do you get out of that,
Yeah, I
Wow.
was I was a shy kid, but for me, I think being involved in school activities
Hmm.
kind of helped. I was involved
Yeah.
in drama and different soccer club and different things like that, so that helped.
Yeah. Wow. Well, kudos to you for that because it's not easy. So tell us a little bit about your health journey. When did you start having health issues? How old were you? And not only how old were you, but let us know what was going on in your life at that time. Because sometimes things that are going on in our life can relate to our health issues. So,
Mhm.
for everybody out there listening, sometimes that can ring a bell for somebody else listening. So, tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so well, as I stated before, in my formidable years, I grew up with my grandparents.
Right.
So my grandmother was a nurse, and she was a nurse at in a hospital for over 30 plus years until she retired. And she was also a military nurse, so she was a medic in the army as well.
Mm.
So during the week, she would work at the hospital in New Orleans, and then on the weekends, when she would have duty, she would work for the military on the base. And after she retired, she then went on to private duty nursing for families who had family members that were terminally ill. So she would do private duty nursing in their home for them.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up, I always ravished her bookshelf, her nursing books,
Wow.
anatomy and physiology. I was looking through the books and looking at the body parts and just being curious about those things. I always kind of had an interest in it. Never really thought about that being part of a career or anything like that. I used to always say, I want to be a nurse like my grandma, but she would say, no, you can be a doctor. And so yeah, so I would read her books and things like that. It wasn't until probably, I would say, mid elementary school, I
Mm-hmm.
started experiencing lots of allergies, eczema, things like that. And by this time, I had left my grandparents' home in New Orleans and was then traveling with my parents once I became adopted. So, um, and as you said before, that sometimes there's a connection, there's a link to transition within your
Mm-hmm.
life. I'd
Right.
never been outside of New Orleans, had always been there. So once we
Mm-hmm.
moved, um, early elementary, I started experiencing some health issues. So the first thing that I remember was, of course, the eczema. I would have patches on my arms and my legs and things like that, really itchy, really bad. Doctors would prescribe different types of creams and different things like that, and have to use certain special soaps, and just they just kind of threw everything at it, steroids, those kinds of things. And then I remember one day, my hair just started falling out.
Oof.
Now I was still in elementary school, so I had very long, thick hair. My mom would braid my hair, or I'd wear big ponytails with ribbons and things like that. She always put a lot of ribbons and stuff in my hair, but my hair started falling out,
Hmm.
and she couldn't do the styles that she normally would do. And once my hair started to fall out, I started to get these oil like sores in my scalp.
Oh, wow.
So she took me to the doctor, and they do all kinds of blood work, and get samples and things like that from your scalp, but they could never really pinpoint one thing that it could be. So it was always told it was an allergy. Well, I didn't never heard of an allergy that would make your hair fall out, but you know
Never know.
stranger
Yeah.
things have happened. So my hair was falling out, and I remember uh, the day that I was going to have an appointment. I had to go and see a dermatologist. My teacher had pulled my mom to the side and said, "What's wrong with her hair? Her hair is normally really pretty all the time. What's wrong with her hair?" Because my mom couldn't do the styles that she normally would do. So, I had to,
Mm-hmm.
just kind of wrap the hair up, or, because it was hardly there. And I distinctly remember the teacher pulling my mom to the side and was like, "What's wrong with her hair?" Like, she wasn't used to seeing my hair that way, because it was always done with bows and just really pretty and everything. So my mom told her I was experiencing something, and the doctors were trying to figure it out. Well, they gave me all kinds of steroid medicines and creams and special shampoos that I had to wash my hair with, and it seemed to help. Like the sores and things started to go away. It took some time for my hair to grow back, but it seemed like I was getting better. So I didn't have that problem anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward, I am now in, I think, about getting close to the middle school age, going into middle school. I think at that time I was probably like sixth grade, so about 12 years old or so, 11, 12 years old. And I began to have terrible headaches, debilitating headaches, very bad migraines. Rushed off to the doctor again. They prescribed me 800 milligram ibuprofen at
Wow.
12 years old. Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty strong to be that young. And
Right.
I
Right.
was pretty
Yeah.
much taking that on a regular basis to
Ooh.
alleviate the headaches. And some days I would just have to fall asleep so that I wouldn't have a headache or I couldn't feel it.
Mm.
It was just easier for me just to fall asleep because the headaches were so bad, they would cause me to vomit.
Oh wow.
So I'm taking 800 milligram ibuprofen at 12 years old. That went on for a while. They would come and go. You know, periodically I would have the headaches. Periodically, I did get diagnosed with seasonal allergies. So any grass, weed, tree, leaf, whatever, cat, it would affect me. So I was very conscious of it and very conscious of what my triggers were when it
Mm-hmm.
came to those types of allergies and try to avoid those things, even though I was an outdoor child. Like growing up then, it's not like how kids are now. We spent a lot of time outdoors. We were very, very active.
Right.
So I spent a lot of time outdoors and always had to take medication to keep my allergies at bay, keep my histamine down, just keep the allergies at bay so I wouldn't have these attacks. As I got older, it seemed to get better. So by the time I would say I was in my 20s, I could manage it a little
Yeah.
bit more, manage the allergies a little bit better, and I knew what my triggers were. Well, it shifted. I started having stomach pains and problems holding down food,
Mm.
barely could hold down water. Um, I remember distinctly when it really hit was my freshman year of college. Most people, you go to college, they talk about the freshman 15.
Yeah. Right.
Everybody gains 15 pounds their freshman year because you're just eating a lot and you're just always on the go. That didn't happen to me. I was going the opposite direction. I was losing weight. So by the time I came home for the first time and my parents saw me, they were pretty much like, what is going on? Because I had dropped down to 98 pounds. I was
Ooh.
really,
Wow.
really, really skinny.
Right.
And I remember having a conversation with my dad, and he was like, it scared him. Like, what is going on? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm eating, but I don't feel like my body is taking the food in. I didn't feel full. Um, but I was eating. Wasn't gaining any weight. It was just going in the opposite direction. Every now and again would have these stomach pains and things like that, really, really bad headaches. Sometimes I couldn't hold food down. So he's like, okay, well, while you're here, you need to go to the doctor. You need to see what's going on. Went to the doctor, did all kinds of lab work, blood work. Everything's normal. Your labs are normal.
Hmm.
Okay, well, what does that mean? I'm still having this issue.
Right. Yeah.
I can't hold down food. I'm losing weight. Why am I losing weight? Well, you're not very tall for your age, so you're still kind of in that because I'm only 5 feet tall.
Oh, yeah.
So, you're still doing okay. Yeah, you could stand to gain about 5 more pounds or so, but you're still pretty good. So we're like, okay. He prescribes me uh, Prilosec, so I began taking that. Uh, Told me to use antacids as needed, things like that. Got a little bit of relief for a while, but it was kind of like a yo-yo. up and down, up and down. Some days I would be fine, some days I wouldn't. By my mid 20s, I was really trying to find answers
Mm.
because I didn't feel like I had the energy that I should at that age, being that young. And I was still just having these issues periodically. Some days I would be fine. Some days it would hit me. I would go weeks, months and be fine. And then all of a sudden it would hit me again. So
Mm.
as I got older, I was doing research and I started going back to my roots, as they say, tapping back into some of the things I remember from my childhood living with my grandparents. My grandmother being a nurse, but she also believed in herbal medicine. She also believed in natural medicine. So she had
Mm.
books and books and books on plants and different herbs and plants and how they're used for the body and what they're used for health. So she had those kinds of things, and I would read them when I
Mm.
was little, but you really don't appreciate that kind of stuff until you get older and you have to, yeah,
You
yeah,
need it.
you
Yeah.
need it. When you need it, and you start to appreciate it, and you go back to it because you're going to all these doctors and you're not really getting any answers.
Yeah.
So, you kind of go back to your roots and things like that. And even when we were young, my grandfather, we would get sick. He didn't use regular everyday medicine on us. He mixed up concoctions that we drank as kids that smelled
Yeah.
bad and taste bad and were strong, and you're like, oh, what is this? I don't want to drink this. But when you drank it, you felt better.
Did it work for you? Yeah.
It worked for you. You felt good. My
Mm.
grandmother believed in castor oil. She she believed in cod liver oil and things like
Right.
that.
Good
Taking those
stuff.
kinds of things. So we were, given those things as we were young. So I started exploring that again. I started looking back at that, and I'm like, maybe some of these things can help me. And I was searching for doctors who believed in it, and I couldn't find any. If I would bring it up to a doctor, they were like, "Oh, that's quackery. That's quack medicine. That stuff doesn't work. It's not real. You need to be careful with that." And I'm like, "But what you're doing for me isn't working.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Oh,
it's not working. I need something else. It's not working." So it wasn't until I got married and had my first child, my oldest son. I ended up the last few months of my pregnancy having to go on bed rest. And the birth itself was not a difficult birth. Like, it was a perfect birth. Like, I mean, smooth sailing, but it was the pregnancy itself that I had difficulty with, and holding down food. And of course, they said, oh, that's just typical, morning sickness type stuff. But I really felt like it was beyond just the typical morning sickness that I was experiencing, because I wasn't holding down anything. I could barely hold down water. And so the doctor was like, we got to put you on bed rest because you're just not getting enough to have the energy that you're going to need when you deliver this baby. So I went on bed rest, tried to stick to broths and soups and things that were light so I
mhm.
could, hold something down. Had my baby. He's perfectly healthy. He was almost 8 pounds, 19 inches long. He was, he was a big,
Sorry.
he was a big baby.
Yeah.
He, perfectly fine. Everything's good. So I felt better. I felt good. I felt like everything was fine. And um, you work on trying to get the baby weight off and stuff like that. And for that first pregnancy, it actually did come off pretty fast for me. And I
Mhm.
was also breastfeeding, so that helps as well. Well, I have my second son, and I could not do anything
Mm.
during that pregnancy. Like, most of that pregnancy, I was on bed rest. I couldn't hold any food down. And when I would go to the doctor, I said, something is not right. I can't eat anything. I can't eat crackers, broth, water, nothing. I can't eat anything. It's fine. This happens. It's, morning sickness. Your baby is fine. Just take your vitamins and the baby's fine and you'll be fine. And, it's just the typical pregnancy stuff. And I'm like, no, this is not, I don't feel like this is normal. Like, I should be able to hold something down. I can't hold anything down.
Mm.
I didn't. So now I'm pregnant with a toddler. You got to have energy to take care of a toddler, but I don't have a lot of energy because I can't keep food down, and I need food for energy. So once again, I'm on bed rest.
Mm.
I have my son. That pregnancy was very traumatic. He actually almost died in birth.
Mm.
So he was deprived of oxygen during birth,
Oh, wow.
and my temperature spiked when he came up. So when he came out, so I had 104-degree temperature, and they didn't know why. It just
Mm.
went up. So they had to put me down and cool packs and stuff like that to get my temperature down. I stay in the hospital a couple of days, released, go home. I'm thinking, okay, doing regular mommy duties, take care of the baby, take care of the toddler. Everything's gonna be fine. I can't eat anything.
Oh,
I still can't eat anything.
yeah.
Like I'm like, I'm hungry, but I can't eat anything. So I talked to the doctor again. I said, look, something's going on. I can't hold down any food. I've already had the baby, so it's not morning sickness. It's not anything that has to do with the pregnancy. Something else is going on. So the doctor that I was going to at the time, I think I had been going to her for, at that point, maybe about 10, 12 years or so. So she knew my history pretty well. And she's like, okay, we're gonna do the typical, blood work. We're gonna run some tests and do the typical blood work, and we're gonna see what that reveals, and then we'll go from there. Okay, fine. Been down that road before. Well, she does the lab work. Nothing comes out of it. It's like, your labs are normal.
Oh,
Your
boy.
blood pressure's great. you know, you don't have any high blood sugar or anything like that. Your labs are normal. Everything's great. I'm like, okay, well, why can't I eat anything? Why am I not holding down any food? We don't know. Oh, okay, so go home and just, go with life. Do what you do. Well, my hair started to fall out
Again.
again. So I'm going back to, oh my gosh, when I was a kid, my hair was falling out. Now my hair is falling out again. I literally lost all of this.
So it's definitely an autoimmune issue going on there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just lost all of the hair in the front, and I'm like, what in the world? I go to my beautician, and she's like, have you been sick? And I was like, just, I think I had like a cold one time, and that was it. And I'm like, I'm dealing with some other issues, holding down food and stuff like that, but I don't know if that has anything to do with it. And so she's like, okay, well, she's like, you're gonna try not to manipulate your hair too much. Not, no really any styles that was gonna do a lot of tugging and things like that. And at that point was when I decided to go natural. So no more perms or anything like that. I just decided to go natural. So since my hair was falling out anyway, I didn't
Right.
have to really do anything but just let it go.
Right.
just,
Right.
just let it go and let it do what it was gonna do. And I started looking at some bloggers that were like natural, specialized in natural hair, and even talking to some people that I knew who were starting to go along that lines and getting into natural hair and things like that, and using some of the things that they were recommending. So I did that, and my hair started to grow back. Never did figure out why it fell out, but it started to grow back. And from that point on, I was like, I'm not going to put any more chemicals in my hair. I'm just going to just be natural and I use like coconut oil and grapeseed oil. And, I started mixing up my own type of moisturizers and stuff like
Mhm.
that, and just using those things. Felt fine for a while, got back active, had a personal trainer for a while, and, was doing that and just living life, being a mom and wife, and building my business. By that time, I had transitioned out of the workforce, So I was working at that time in youth and family development, and I was also working as a behavior therapist, working with children with autism. So I had
Mm.
transitioned out of that into full time self employment. Well, I started getting sick again. Couldn't hold down any food.
Mm.
Just out of nowhere. It was just happening. So I went back to the doctor and she's like, okay, we're gonna run some other tests. She says, I'm gonna have you go and have a HIDA scan done, which basically tests your gallbladder, make sure that your gallbladder is functioning like it's supposed to. So I had the HIDA scan done, and it was normal.
Wow.
It was normal. Nothing. Your gallbladder's fine. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. I'm like, okay, back to the drawing board. Where do we go from here? She's like, well, you do have the seasonal allergy thing, and we just got to get a handle on what's going on as far as digestively. So I'm going to send you to a gastroenterologist. I'm going to send you to an allergist. So I'm like,
Mm.
okay, let's do that. So I go to the allergist, and he tests me. He said, so what kind of reactions do you have when you eat food? I vomit. That's the reaction. He's like, well, can you pinpoint which foods it is? I'm like, everything. Everything I put in my mouth, it just comes right back up, even water.
Mm.
So he's like, okay, well, we're just gonna do a complete panel, like the whole 9 yard. So they tested me for every food he possibly could test me for. And they
Mhm.
did the skin test on the back. I don't know if you've had that, or if any one of your
Um,
audience has had that. It's not easy. It's not
I had
easy at
that
all.
as a child. I know. Yeah,
Oh my
I
goodness.
had it as a child.
Yes, it is terrible. Well, I passed out.
Oh no.
I passed out during the test.
Hmm.
And when they came and looked at everything, I had high level of allergic reaction to corn.
Hmm.
So corn, almonds, and celery were my
Oddly.
worst ones. And then
Yeah.
people, when you tell people you're allergic to celery, they're like, celery, that's just water, you know. But there's some enzyme within celery that my body reacts to. But the
Right.
highest one was corn. It was corn byproducts, corn derivatives, anything with corn in it. So he's
Mm.
like, look, you're going to have to just eliminate corn out of your diet completely. That means food, that means products, anything that is a corn byproduct, lotions, soaps, shampoos, all of that stuff has corn in it. All of the food, especially in the United States, has corn in it or
I
some type of corn byproduct,
yeah.
you know? So I'm having to read labels and learn what what are other names for corn. I'm having to
Right.
look at all of this stuff because I'm thinking I'm doing okay and I buy something, I eat it, and next thing you know, I'm vomiting, you know? So I go through this whole process of relearning nutrition again, relearning how to eat, relearning diet, reading labels. I have to be a stickler about reading labels. And even when I go out to restaurants, I have to make sure there's no corn, there's no almonds, there's no celery. I've had a couple close calls in restaurants where, order a salad and there's almonds in the salad, you know. And I'm
Yeah.
like, no, I can't, I got to be careful with this. So this is a little extreme, but I just decided to go cold turkey plant based,
Hmm.
like overnight.
Yeah.
Everybody can't do that,
No.
but I decided, this is what I have to do because right now I can't take any chances.
I
So
had something similar. I get it. I'm not
yeah,
that now, but yeah. Yeah.
so I go to the gastroenterologist, and he says, like, I'm going to do an endoscopy on you. So of course you got to be put to sleep to do that. They put the scope down your throat and go into your belly and stuff like that. So I come to, and I remember my husband sitting on one side and the doctor's at the door, and I wake up and he's like, you got bleeding spots on your stomach. I'm going to give you a prescription. And he walks out the door. What? You're not going to explain this? Like,
Right.
what do you
Right.
mean bleeding spots? You know? And he just walks out the door, is like, I'm going to give you a prescription. So he gives me a prescription for this medication. I don't take it. I do some research on it, and I decided that the side effects just weren't worth it for me. I just didn't want to take the chance, especially being a young mom with small kids. I just didn't want to take the chance. So I was like, no, I can't take this. There's got to be something else. And why do I have these bleeding spots on my stomach? Like, you didn't explain this to me. What is this? Well, we don't know. He was like, but it seems that um, it may have come from some medications that you were taking. So I think about it. And I'm like, well, as a kid, I was on 800 milligrams of ibuprofen.
That would have done it. Yeah. Yep.
You can tear up your stomach lining,
Right.
with that. That's a lot. So I kick all of that. I go pretty much cold turkey, no medications, and I'm still having issues. So my doctor, she says, okay, I'm going to send you for a gastric emptying study. Now, with that, you have to eat radioactive eggs. So after doing that, I can't breastfeed anymore.
Mm.
So that bothered me because I'm like, I want to, my baby's he's still a baby. I still want to breastfeed, but they were like, well, you do this test, you can't breastfeed anymore. So I'm like, okay. So I do the test, and they come back and they're like, your digestion is like so slow. Like, I've never seen digestion is slow. And they're like, that would explain the vomiting, because literally, like, it's like the food is piling up on top of each other.
Yep.
And it's not getting a chance. Your first layer of food is not getting a chance to do what it needs to do through your digestive system. Your digestive system starts in your mouth with you chewing, your saliva going down your esophagus, all of that. That's your entire digestive system into your intestines and everything.
That's what happened. Yeah.
Right. It's not doing what it's supposed to do. It's just like really sluggish and slow.
Right. Everything would come back up.
Everything would just come right back up.
Years for me to figure it out too. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're like, it shouldn't have taken that long for those eggs to go through your system. I'm like, what do I do?
Right.
What do you do about that? No one had any answers. So the only thing that they told me was to limit the amount of meat that I was eating, because it seemed to be worse when I would eat red meat. And this is just for me, because people get a little antsy when you start talking about meat, but for me, red meat would make me worse.
Mm-hmm.
So I completely eliminated meat, went straight vegan, and I did that for probably about 8 or 9 years.
Wow.
Just like straight cold turkey, didn't look back. And so the doctor's like, well, you can maybe start reintroducing some things into your diet now that you're doing better. You can start introducing those things into your diet. Well, during all that time, I started to learn that digestive issues actually were prominent on my mother's side of the family.
Mm.
So I'm like, okay, is this something that's hereditary? Is there a genetic component to this that no one knows about, because no one's ever really been tested for it? They just dealt with it. They just did what they had to do. And, the answer was either, they give you antacids or Prilosec, things like that, or laxative. Like, I had family members who would take laxatives a lot all the time, and milk of magnesia and things like that, because not only were they having problems digesting food, but they couldn't eliminate it either. They were having, people don't understand, some people don't understand what a good bowel movement is.
Right.
And I would hear people say, well, I go to the bathroom every 2 weeks. I'm like, every 2 weeks? Like, that's not normal.
We're supposed to go every time you eat, but none of us do.
Right. And I'm like, if you're going like that, that's not normal.
No.
Not at all. So I learned that there, on that side of the family, that it was, digestive issues were there. And it really hit home when my grandmother, she ended up, and she's passed on now, but she was diagnosed with digestive cancer.
Mm.
She had cancer in her digestive system. And so that really even ignited more for me to pay attention to this
Mm.
and really look into um, the digestive system. And it became a part of what I did in my coaching practice. You know, I worked with a lot of people who were dealing with digestive issues and who had food allergies, and they weren't getting any answers, and they were looking for ways to eliminate the pain and things that they were going through. And so that was like, that became the thing that I looked at.
Mm.
And even with having my children, I paid very close attention to those things because I wanted to make sure they weren't experiencing the symptoms that I was experiencing when I was a child. So it was typical for my kids to, you know, and this is maybe TMI, but they would go to the bathroom as little ones, toddlers, and they would say, "Mommy, come look," because I trained them to let me see because I want to make sure it's a normal, you know, a normal bowel movement.
Yeah.
Because they were breastfed children, they didn't have any issues with
Mm.
that. You know, they didn't have any digestive issues. They didn't have any issues going to the bathroom. They were pretty, you know, pretty
Mm.
normal kids, and being as active as they are and were, you know, that helped as well. So, and you know, with my youngest having a diagnosis of autism, that's one of the things that they always tell you to pay attention to, because a lot of children with autism, a lot of children on the spectrum, they have digestive issues.
Right.
And you see them, even the
Right.
kids that I worked with in therapy, they would literally want to lay over top of the back of the couch and do their therapy because their bellies were hurting, but they didn't know how to say.
Oh,
You
wow.
know, so they would lean. You would see a lot of these kids. They would lean over the arm of a chair because the
Mm.
pressure against their belly was giving them some relief.
Wow.
And from that point, I would, you know, this was something that I would talk to the parents about, and it became one of the things that was also uh, something that I added to my repertoire was, you know, teaching the parents about the digestive issues that their kids were experiencing and some of the things that they could do, some of the foods that they could use, and enzymes and probiotics and things like that that they could use to help relieve some of that stuff. So um, I'm proud to say that I'm doing good.
That's
You
awesome.
know, I'm doing very well, and I think that part of that has to do with pushing and trying to get answers. You know, not just taking what the doctor said
Mhm.
as just it. You know, getting second opinions and going back and saying, look, no, this is not working. I something, you know, I need more testing or something. I need answers. Something has to give. Like, what else can I do? And then being okay with, if the doctor didn't have an answer, then I can, there's an alternative. You know, we sometimes feel like we just have to do everything with allopathic medicine, but I don't believe in one size fits all medicine because
Right.
I've experienced that it doesn't work for everybody. Everybody is different. We're all different.
Did you ever get diagnosed with, so 30 years later, if you guys
Hmm.
watch my show from the first show that I did, I talk about this. I can't even tell you the name of it, but I almost choked to death. What was it? Right after I moved to North Carolina. And so 30 years later, I finally got a diagnosis of what this food allergy thing was, and it began with an E, endo something or other. And it had to do with like the white blood cells or something in my esophagus, and then like you say, I had the weak digestion. So for me, the biggest culprit was gluten or acidic foods. Those foods don't digest well, so I always attributed it for years to just weak digestion, but it actually had a name, and it is an autoimmune disorder. I
Hmm.
didn't have the migraines like you did. I didn't have the hair falling out. Um, I don't know if you ever, like, did you ever? I don't. You said you grew up in Louisiana. Did you ever have water in the home or anything?
Did I have water?
Yeah.
Like
Flood
from,
waters or anything, or no?
say that again.
Like flood waters or anything like that? Or
Oh yeah, that was normal. Look, I mean, well, I remember when I was younger, like floodwaters would rise up to my grandmother's porch. Nothing ever came inside while we were there.
mm,
Um, but it was normal for us to get a hurricane and a good rain, and the water would sit there, for days before it would recede. So that was, that's
was
it.
any of it at home? Anywhere? Basement?
Inside of the home, no,
Okay.
nothing inside of the home.
I'm just curious. We've talked about this on a few other shows that sometimes mold toxicity
Yeah.
too can
Hmm.
cause issues, the migraines, things like that. So
Yeah.
just curious, just wanted to put
And
that
I'm
out.
and this and I can't say that I would not eliminate mold toxicity.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Because I'm familiar with that.
yeah,
Um, and I can see where the symptoms align with that, and you
yeah.
just never know where you've been exposed. Because I've
Right.
worked in a lot of different places and old buildings and things like
Okay.
that, and you may not necessarily be able to pinpoint exactly where, but probably there was some exposure,
Yeah.
some exposure there. So yeah, mold is a big thing right now that a lot of people
Corn,
are
corn
suffering from.
it, it's in. So this is one of the first things I learned about when I started with multiple food allergies. Corn is in big sills. So in those sills, mold grows. And that's sometimes just eating the corn, we're getting that mold in our bodies. And
Mhm.
that can also produce illness.
Yeah.
So one of the things I learned about corn, oh my gosh. So you talk about the byproducts of corn. I was in a group, this is dating myself, but it was like a Yahoo group way back. And there were a lot of parents in there. And they would talk about if their child ate corn, they got violent. It was in everything. High fructose corn syrup could be in tomato sauce, of course, your drinks, lots of different drinks. But believe it or not, this is what shocked the heck out of me. I didn't know. Corn products can be in your IV. They can use a corn byproduct in your IV. They can use corn in plastics. It's
Hmm.
actually in plastic and your clothes.
Yeah.
So who would have thought something like that would be in those things? You know what I mean? Like you wouldn't. So if you've got a high allergic reaction to corn, really look that up. Once again, I forgot to put out the disclosure, so let me put that out there. Full disclosure, this is not
Right.
advice. This is not meant to cure, heal, or treat any illness.
Hmm.
Do your own research. I am not a doctor, scientist, neither one,
Right.
but so full disclosure, I forgot to put that out there in the beginning. But yeah, just do your own research because
Yeah.
if you're allergic to
When I
corn,
go, if I have to be in a hospital for any reason, I do have to let them know that because of the
yeah,
IV and things like that, and also the gloves that they use.
yeah,
I can't anything with the powder that they have in some of the
yeah,
gloves.
to be
I
clean.
can't, yeah, I can't have them use those types of gloves. So I do have to inform if I'm at a hospital, and I gotta inform them of that ahead of time, because normally they only ask you, are you allergic to any medications,
Right. And
which
then
I am.
yeah, on the flip side of that, not even just corn, but like almonds. When I was really, really, really sensitive, when I was working at the jail, the guys across the hall would make coffee. But one day I started hacking. I'm like, what in the world is making me coffee for? They were making hazelnut coffee. The nuts, but just the smell of any nut was bothering me. Now I'm
That's
fine.
how I'm like that with popcorn.
Yep.
If someone's
Yep.
popping some popcorn in the vicinity, it's just like I can't catch my breath.
I kept hacking. I was like, what is making
Hmm.
like, why am I was like, I couldn't figure it out. I was like, what is going on? And then I finally figured it out because actually, you know how I figured it out? Oddly enough, this other woman I worked with at the jail, she had a little bit of allergies too, just sensitivities. And she went to Dunkin' Donuts one time and she was doing that, like kind of hacking. We figured it out. It was the coffee. Somehow she probably got a little bit of hazelnut in her regular coffee. And so it was making her hack because she was allergic to nuts too. So
Mm-hmm.
highly allergic to them, but it did make her tongue feel funny. You know, things weren't working, you know what I mean? Things weren't going right for her.
Yeah.
So,
And some
yeah,
people, they may not have like a full blown allergy to a food, but
right,
you have a food aversions.
right.
So, it may make you cough or sneeze, or, you may get itchy and you're trying to figure out why. And it doesn't mean that you have a full blown allergy, but it just may be an aversion to something within that food.
Yeah,
So,
sensitivity. But yeah, that's how I figured it out. I'm like, okay, if she's sensitive, Dunkin's must have just had a little bit of hazelnut mixed with the regular coffee in the pot, whatever it might be. It just was bothering her. That's how
right.
I smell of hazelnut was bothering. I just put two and two together. I mean,
Yeah,
sometimes it's a puzzle,
it
it's
is.
a puzzle.
It
So
definitely is.
we've got about 8 minutes left. So I would like to talk a little bit about you're also a caregiver for your husband. Can you just tell us a little bit about that? And then I'd love people to know how to reach you and anything you want to tell the people that you can give them a few tips before we do wrap it up. So just tell us a
Sure.
little.
Yeah. So, well, I'm a caregiver all the way around because, like I
Right.
said, I have a child with autism, and then my oldest son also has had a brain injury, and then with my husband, he had a recent injury to his thalamus of his brain that has caused some cognition and memory issues and things of that nature. So, and then I'm also a caregiver to my elderly father, who I mean, we talked about this the last time we talked, that I had gone to uh, move him here to Virginia from New Orleans. He's a
Yep.
Vietnam veteran, so you know what goes with all of that, the
Mm-hmm.
PTSD and things like that. So, yeah, I'm a caregiver 4 times over.
You've got a lot going on, and then you've got your own business.
Yeah, I got the business and I homeschool.
Mm,
So, if I could give any tips to anyone who is a caregiver, get
mm-hmm.
your rest.
Yeah.
Make sure that you have a sacred space of your own. That even if you just, you can't, you're not necessarily taking a nap, but if you can just sit down in the quiet, and I have a space that I go to every morning because I typically will get up, depending on what's happened the night before. I'm up anywhere between 3 and 5 in the morning. So I use that time for, you know, getting in my word, praying, and just preparing my mind and things for the tasks that I have for the day and things like that. So anyone out there that's a caregiver, make it a priority. I
Mm,
tell my family I can't afford to get sick because y'all need me.
yeah.
you
Yeah.
know so I got to take care of myself. I got to be active. I got to eat right.
Mm-hmm.
I got to maintain myself in order to take care of them and help them on their health journey until they get better or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But that would be, I say, the first thing that I would recommend. Now, for those who are dealing with illness, any type of illness, and really doesn't matter like with what it is, um, don't be afraid to advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to get a second opinion, a third opinion, fourth opinion if you need to. Don't be afraid of doing alternative testing. There's a
Right.
lot of tests out there that the typical allopathic doctor will not do. But if you can find a naturopath or a functional medicine doctor who can do some of these tests for you that aren't typically done in hospitals, get
Right.
it done because
Yep.
it'll give you a lot more answers. I went through this with my children, you know, testing them for things that went on, and especially with my oldest when he was injured by a routine, I'll just say a routine medical procedure, because
Mm-hmm.
we know how the censoring is going on right now.
Right.
he we got outside testing because the doctors refused to do it, and once we got those answers, then they want
Mm-hmm.
to say, oh well, we could have, but no, you didn't. So
Right.
don't be afraid to advocate for yourself. Don't be afraid to go out there and get other testing done. Don't be afraid to see a functional medicine doctor,
Right.
functional nutrition. I really believe that functional medicine is going to be the future. you
Yeah.
know I think traditional medicine, it has its place, but functional medicine, dealing with the whole
Yeah.
body systems, and not just compartmentalizing your body systems and dealing with those things as a whole. I think that's the future of medicine, and I think that's the future of health, and where a lot of people are going to find relief when it comes to some of these mystery illnesses and disorders that they're going through. So that would be my second thing. Number one, take care of yourself. Do what you
Mm,
got to do. Put yourself first. It's not selfish. Self care, soul care, self care. That's what I tell people.
yeah.
Second thing would be to advocate for yourself. Don't be afraid to ask questions. The doctor works for you.
Yeah.
They should be your partner in your health and you getting better. The third thing I would say is try to eat local as much as possible. Get to know a farmer. Things are
Yeah.
crazy right now when it comes to food and stuff like that. Find you a farmer. Find
Yeah.
you a CSA. Some and try to eat local as much as possible. Try to eat close to home as much as possible. If you can't do that, grow your own.
Yeah.
We have a garden right now. I call it our healing garden. We're
Nice.
growing all kinds of herbs, all kinds of fruit and vegetables, and we my goal is to replace at least 50% of our produce if we can, just using our backyard. We've
Nice.
done pretty. We're not at 50%. We did pretty good this year. We had a you know, good production for us really going full scale into this thing. But even if you live in an apartment, you can grow something. You can grow things in pots. You can grow lemon trees in pots, tomatoes,
Yeah.
kale, all kinds of lettuce greens. You can grow those things in pots, in a window, on a balcony. Do something that is not only going to uh, alleviate your chances of getting exposed to chemicals, but it's cost effective.
Oh
It's going
yeah.
to save you money.
Yep.
You know, so yeah, those are my tips. Those are the things that I'm doing with my own family, and I suggest to my family and friends as well.
So at the last minute, I'm just going to ask if Prophetess Rashida, she's still on here. Do you have any questions for us, Prophetess Rashida? Type them in the comments if you do. And while she's doing that, TJ, tell everybody how they can reach you and if they have any questions for you.
Okay, so they can go to about.me/TG Barnes. And if they want to check out what products we have for our apothecary, we're on Facebook and we're on Instagram, Do Life Well Apothecary.
Okay, awesome. And if you have questions for her, questions for me, the easiest way to get me is you can Facebook message me, you can Instagram message me. My phone number is on the website. You can text me, but I'm just going to set up a time to talk to you. So just so you know, I'm not going to be like texting you back and forth. I just set up a time to talk to you. So that's about it. Like I said in the beginning of the show, thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, TJ, for being here. I'm looking for guests. Yes, this was really, really informative. I hope it helps somebody. Once again, do your own research, but I did find out that I had an autoimmune disorder and it took me 30 years to figure out. I'm going to have to look it up again so that I can tell people what the actual name of it was. I know it began with END. It had to do with my white blood cells. Long story short, it caused me to have food allergies, and food didn't go down easily. It basically was because of acidic foods, gluten, things like that. Things that are hard to digest.
Right.
So, yeah, you can go back and watch the replay on that one. But thanks everyone for being here, Prophetess Rashida. I don't think she has any questions, but if you do, type it in the comments. If you don't feel comfortable typing it in, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, whichever platform you're on, I do go back and look for the comments. If you don't feel comfortable with that, then reach out to me or TJ if there's something you're going through, yourself, your kids, anybody in the family. Please reach out to us. There might be something we can help. And even if we can't help, we have lots of connections, so we might be able to connect with you. So with that, please reach out. I'm looking for more guests for September, October. So please reach out if you'd like to be a guest. I'm looking for caregivers, people who've overcome an illness, they're going through an illness. Could be an apostle, could be a pastor, anything like that. So please reach out to me. So TG, thank you again for being here.
Thank you, Paula. Good to see you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. See you next Sunday at 7 Eastern Time.